All right. We should be live. I hope so. Let me turn down the music a little bit. I still need to find the right spot where it's not aggravating for you guys. I can, tune up and down here independently from Ecamm Live. Speaking of Ecamm Live, this is my I'm sharing the wrong screen. This is the perfect intro because I'm still new to live streaming. This is the first time I also having streamed to YouTube the last couple of days since last week. I wanted to expand a little bit and also try Twitch. And I do that through Restream, which I'm checking out or trying for the very first time. I will try to keep an eye on the chat through Restream. Let me put this maybe back to the other screen, kind of like my monitoring screen, if you will. Let me check the volume levels once more. Yeah, this should be good. However, if things don't go completely as planned, please bear with me. For those that have never tuned in before, which is probably the majority or not, there are a couple of people that kind of showed up regularly over the last couple of streams. Big shout out to you guys. Much appreciated. And be it as it may, if you've followed this or not before, I am a big fan of Miro, and I basically write down whatever we talk about or kind of structure it in a little, in some way in Miro, what I talk about, and also some resources that might make sense to check out for you, like during the stream, after the stream. It's something you can come back to anytime. It's openly available. You will find the link to the Miro board in the live stream description, basically. Both on, I'm not too familiar how things look on the Twitch UI side of things, but on YouTube, it's just the regular video description, which in this case is a live stream description, obviously. Right, so what are we going to do today? I've recorded a stream, I think it was yesterday. Let's see, yeah, yesterday. Basically volume 3, this is volume 4 of trying to do two things. Using and improving my MCP server that basically takes prompt templates, and through the use of prompt templates tries to make vibe coding a bit more reliable, a bit more structured, or putting some guardrails on vibe coding and aiming for the best of both worlds between this, this vibing, the AI really doing stuff for you, but doing it in a way that you kind of sign off on, that you are comfortable with, because it's that it's at least like in 90% or 95% running through the same procedures of how to do things. And that's the entire idea behind at least my prompt templates. Obviously, I would like the model to behave like in 100% of cases according to my plan or my plans. But yeah, you know how this is with Gen AI codings in especially. Good. The other thing I'm fascinated by, and I don't want to go into all the detail of what I put out here. It's from the last stream basically, but I want to try to write as anti-fragile code or as resilient code as possible. And resilience, I want to go a step further than just having resilient code that doesn't break. I would eventually like to have code that adapts to changed infrastructure, to changed infrastructure, a changed environment. And obviously I know that this is asking and wanting a lot, asking for and wanting a lot. I'm aware of that, right? Nevertheless, I want to try it. And the thing, maybe to bring that over for people that have not followed along before, the thing I want to do is to basically, I'll just copy this over, to basically have a Lego brick that is able to talk to the DB backend or layer in sync or async fashion or manner, in a sync or async manner. For those of you that are deep in the details of how Streamlit is built, this is sometimes, like, I never managed to get async really flying when using Streamlit, async database connection, that is. And I think, I mean, most likely it's a skill issue, right? So this is always like my first guess, obviously. But I actually spent some time with it, and I think it's just the way that Streamlit is set up with its event system or event loop and how it refreshes the page and all of that stuff, that it makes it kind of hard to implement async. At least I didn't get it to fly. However, I also don't want to be just stuck with sync stuff and having to, rewrite the entire database layer if I wanted to use a similar approach in another project that might not use Streamlit. So that's why the Lego metaphor, I try to basically create a first Lego brick that is probably going to be called SFA DB or something like that. SFA just being a prefix. You can also just think of it as Lego brick. Well, Lego brick would obviously translate into a module or package called, I don't know, DB layer. Some name, right? I'm not decided on the name yet. And this DB layer should be able to handle both async and sync. And basically have this feature, this inherent feature built inside. Obviously, this is not anti-fragility yet. I'm well aware of that, right? I see anti-fragility as the ultimate end goal, and the journey becomes a destination, right? In a sense. So I just want to write code that's as robust and as flexible as possible, suited for my personal needs and the projects that I typically do. So with that, let's just jump into Cursor. I really wanted to try out Windsurf, but I just have an issue with GitHub authentication. I can't figure out why. It's either that or something is wrong with my account because I cannot talk to the Codium server for some reason. But I put down already a couple of links or resources that guide you to the relevant pages for the doc pages for how to set up MCP servers with both IDEs. And also both of them have sort of let's maybe open one of those up to talk a little bit about what an MCP server actually is. Let's make this a little bit bigger as well. I'm having a pretty big screen here. Let's make it bigger that way first. So MCP server, basically, I think of it as just a way of providing additional tools and or skills to your LLM, be it whatever the LLM does. If it's a true agent, if it's an assistant. Obviously, I want to currently use it within Cursor and Windsurf. So when I want to leverage basically what my agent can do. Here we are in Cursor on the right-hand side in the new chat UI. They changed it with Cursor. Sorry for jumping maybe a little bit, with Cursor 0.46 whatever. I think I was on 0.46.8 this morning, and updated to 0.9 just a couple, like a half an hour ago or so. Yeah, so if you're still on the, sorry, what was it now? I forgot the number. If you're one minor version below the 46 or 45 something, then this might still look pretty different in your cursor. But coming back to agents and MCP servers and tools and skills, that's basically what I want, right? I can basically instruct my agent to say, use tool XYZ from an MCP server, and it will figure this out. Obviously, this needs to be set in the settings. This also changed a little bit. There's a new own section for MCP server stuff in, oh, interesting. In, that is interesting in a bad way. I hope I can get this running though. Let's see. Let's start with a new shell here. So let's do that first and call. Oh, yeah, I know why. Sorry. I was in the wrong. Make this a bit bigger for you to make it easier to see. And close down this one. I was in the wrong repo for, this is the repository that actually makes up my MCP server. However, I find it interesting in a bad way that this is not recognized throughout cursor. I hope they didn't change anything. They should, this should definitely work. So if I go to, my server here, which is localhost port 8000 SSE, it is running, and it was accessible before the update. Interesting. So maybe the live stream will either end early or we will need to troubleshoot this. That magically solved it. It was not enough to just refresh it. I needed to go in and edit and save. This is kind of like your old shut it down and restart it. Pull the plug, put it back in. 80% of problems go away automatically by just that. Right, so this is basically what the agent has access to in my current state of my MCP server. It's mainly centered around, as mentioned before or hinted at before, about applying prompt templates. For example, here, an initial prompt template to start off new coding endeavors, adding a new feature, creating an app in the first place, or some infrastructure, some system, fixing stuff, proceeding after having developed a game plan or come up with a game plan, and so on and so forth. It's far from being done yet. Maybe coming back to Miro, I think I should always put that down where the actual URL is of the GitHub repo is, basically. Didn't I do that? That was an oversight. Apparently not. Oh, sorry for that. Let's clean up a little bit. Browser game here. So this works, and we go to GitHub, Yanko WTF, and MCP hitch code. So that's the repo. Again, shout outs to Kirill Markin that came up with the server template for this, which like produced also this nice README. I haven't actually tried deploying to Heroku yet, but even that is kind of like added through a button. I haven't checked it out yet, but I think it's a really cool idea. I want to try this out with Railway. And yeah, you basically it's guiding you through how to set this up, how to run it. You basically just need to to get started, clone this template directory or repository to be more precise. And then you basically already have two kind of like hello world functions defined in the server.py file, which is fetch a website. It's just a hello world thing, right? It fetches the entire website without processing it further, related to stuff like HTML parsing and so. So it contains all the HTML markup. That's why your context window will be like overloaded in no time. And the other one is check mood, right? It's basically just if you ask your coding agent to check for the mood, you can actually do that just as a demo. This should work. It should call the tool check mood. Sometimes I still have to, it figures out by itself without saying anything like call a tool, or let alone speaking of an MCP server. The model is able to figure this out. Right? In this case, it's 3.5 Sonnet model-wise, and you basically see the tool call with the question, how are you feeling today? And this is returned. I think this is hard-coded, going back to, so whatever you basically put in here as question, the message will be, the return value will be, I'm feeling great and happy to help you. So I would just encourage you to check this out, because I've had an eye on MCP servers for months now, but it seems to be really picking up in the last couple of weeks. So lots of people talking about it, using it. There's ever-growing repositories of MCP servers that other people already put out there. I haven't wrapped my head around this on how I would, for example, use a Supabase MCP server or Figma. Well, Figma more, right? You could probably pull in designs for user interfaces directly from Figma, and basically tell your coding agent, hey, look at Figma, at the latest Figma board or whatever. I'm not using Figma, so I'm not an expert on this. And then, translate that into an actual front-end code. That's possible through MCP servers. Just have a look. I think this is a thing that the community still needs to figure out on how to exactly, how and where and how and why to leverage this entire thing. But it's cool that this kind of like standard exists. For me, it's kind of like the USB-C standard for LLM tools or skills. I usually think of them as skills, but probably tools is the more appropriate term, and more used term, widely used term as well. All right. So that's about it. What I wanted to say about the links here, the references. Windsurf, I actually wanted to really get going. I spent like half an hour trying to troubleshoot it. Windsurf just came out with their so-called Wave 4. They always bundle new functionality, smaller and bigger functionality or changes in so-called waves. And I think today or yesterday, Wave 4 basically was released. And they're making quite a splash, obviously. I mean, I've been using Cursor, obviously, before Windsurf came along, then switched to Windsurf for a couple of weeks. Really liked it. Then for some reason came back to Cursor because some stuff, I think web search was still not available in Windsurf back then. And now I kind of am not stuck on Windsurf, but I'm looking at, stuck on Cursor, but I'm looking at Windsurf, wanting to try it out again. Having some technical issues, so that's why I'm gonna continue with Cursor for the time being. And we'll keep this running in this repo because we might change some stuff in the MCP server and the prompt templates as well. But mainly we're going to use or work in the, probably need to do the same thing here. Yeah, interesting. In the Antifragile code repo, the name is still a bit misleading. We're basically dealing with, let me collapse the folder structure here a little bit and also make this a bit bigger. We're basically dealing with database access. So I'm using a source-based package/project layout. I'm using UV. So this is, in fact, a true Python project that you can build and install. It's all based on PyProject TOML, and then you could either use Poetry as a dependency manager and package infrastructure builder. I would put it out like this, or UV. I'm in the middle of learning more about UV, so that's why this project is also using it. And even though there's still some Poetry stuff in there, this in turn comes from my cursor settings and cursor rules, right? So if you go into the settings and find the rules tab, this might be in a different section, in a different tab, and if you're on the older version of cursor. But here basically laid out my rules for cursor to follow, and somewhere in there, the dev environment setup, it talks about using Poetry. So I'm kind of confusing it. So that's why I'm not mad in any way. Because I'm sending mixed signals basically to the LLM on which infrastructure to actually use, right? So I actually experimented today in my earlier live stream a bit with cursor ignore files and cursor rule files, because much similar to git ignore, which you might be familiar with for interacting with Git and basically telling Git, hey, do never, for example, put my end file, push that never up to the remote repository, because it usually contains crucial information or sensitive information. Much in a similar way, you can leverage cursor rule files and cursor ignore files, but it didn't completely work out for me, or I had a skill issue in the session I had this morning which was related to leveraging Git submodules to kind of structure my GitHub repos that might have references to other GitHub repos in a better way. But this is not a live stream about GitHub or Git submodules. I will try to think about this a bit more and actually do either a more focused live stream or turn that into a video. I think there's great potential. But yeah, let's not get caught up in that rabbit hole for today. We do want to get caught up in the following rabbit hole of finishing our game plan from yesterday's live stream, where I basically stopped after completing stage 3. And we were in the middle of refactoring basically our, let me try to find a good intro here in the session provider. Find this really quick. It's in... interesting. Oh no, sorry, I was not reading correctly. So this is a kind of like an interface class, and it currently still it directly inherits from the abstract class ABC. And yesterday we kind of finished with me talking to the model and coming up with a better plan for this, that instead of using, and it's written down in composition, instead of using ABC, we should actually rely on a protocol class. Not completely sure yet if this is something we need to also develop, or if this is some other form of ABC, right? Some form of defining abstract classes / interfaces / protocols. Yeah, and this is laid out, or we talked about this yesterday, why it makes sense. It's basically, it has to do with choosing composition over inheritance. And since this is actually something that's really important for me from a philosophical point of trying to create robust, flexible, anti-fragile code to use composition over inheritance because you can basically mix and match what your classes can do by dependency injection and not by much stricter inheritance hierarchies, basically, which always come and bite you in the A. There's actually a quite a fascinating, for me it was quite good. I learned a lot. Cool video by the Primogen, or Primetime Reacts, I think that's what his channel is called, where he basically live reacts to why inheritance is to a blog post or video. I'm not recalling that correctly. Of the flaws of inheritance, right? So if you want to know more or learn more about composition over inheritance, then I suggest you check this out. Oops, sorry, I should lock this. Let's make some room here and actually get going. So we have this game plan. If you followed me throughout my videos, not just the live streams, let me clean up here a little bit. It's I'm a big fan of kind of letting the model / the coding agent come up with an explicit game plan of what we want to do in small pieces, which like aim for small chunks in general, and then have those smaller chunks be further broken down into stages on how we want to tackle with the respective task of a stage. And those are left. So we basically need to refactor the inheritance stuff, and then yeah, that's why I didn't start with this yesterday, because the game plan is kind of off, because this ABC2 protocol path basically opened up yesterday, like 20 minutes before I stopped the live stream. And to me, it makes much more sense to do that first and then do the Streamlit integration with, or testing things out in our little, hey Yelle, nice that you could make it, my most loyal viewer. You will get a badge and a cookie of your choice. I will bake it for you. To actually test things out in a little Streamlit example app, which is not part of the actual code of the Lego brick or the module, but that lives in a different folder, basically, examples. And then we have 2 different Streamlit apps that basically yeah, import stuff from our package here. And that it's not the nicest one. I let the AI completely come up with the app structure. Usually, obviously, you should put your import statements at the top, just for good housekeeping. But yeah, so the first order of business is to go in and say, hey, let's do stage 4 before stage 3. Let's shuffle some things around. I will actually start a new conversation for that. I always like to make sure that this is really the case. Let's maybe put the date down, so just for reference purposes, that I basically know, hey, this is the chat where we started basically in the live stream. And I also, just out of habit, I always kind of reset the composer, which is not there anymore in the new UI. It used to be Command R to do that, and it still has an effect because the code base basically is gone, which is also an interesting thing. I don't know if this even works, but I like to reference the code base. I don't know if it's overkill, if this is actually necessary or not, but you can't reference at code base when you're in agent mode. Let me zoom in here a little bit. But you can do so when going into the ask mode, basically. Then you can type at and have the code base available. And then when you switch back, it stays there. So I don't know. Maybe that's a hack. Maybe it doesn't do any, it doesn't make any difference. I don't know. Oh, interesting. Yella just told me that there's a possibility to get Perplexity AI for like a promotion, basically, to get Perplexity AI, which I really like and use heavily. because it now has deep research and R1. So DeepSeek R1 and deep research, which are two different things, built in, and I use it for 90% plus of my former Google searches that I usually did, or before Perplexly did with Google. And yeah, nice. So go check that out. Have a look at what Jelle just wrote. So we have our game plan referenced. Let me check if it's really the right one. It is. It's the only one that I like to keep my game plan directory tidy and move old game plans to an archive subdirectory. So I kind of always know mentally for myself it's good for the common meatbag, the human, and the AI as well, to always know that we have just one thing that we're currently focusing on. The rest is basically archive stuff. So I would go in. Oh, I hope voice typing is functioning. Let me just check that. Yeah, this looks good, because I do like to voice type. Hey, I think it's a better idea to do stage 4 before stage 3. That is to do the interface refactoring from abstract class uppercase ABC to protocol before actually integrating everything into our Streamlit app. Interesting. It said it typed uppercase, but it also did the uppercase. Interesting. ABC to protocol. See, I think I could actually reference this. Yeah, with, you see the add to chat. So Command I actually references just that line before actually integrating everything into our Streamlit app. And then I would say, I don't know, we'll just reference this line just to be safe. See referenced section. This is like fuzzy stuff. Maybe this what I'm just doing here doesn't have any effect, but I'm typically both trying out and always kind of think, hey, better safe than sorry, right? Double checking or double nudging the model in a duplicated way is, to me, makes sense. Yeah, I think links are not supported in chat. Jelle, this is a security measure. I think that is at least like that in on YouTube. I don't know the Twitch side of things. So, and this is not the end. I'm not going to hit send, because what's missing is I want to use one of my prompt templates. So I would advise the model to say in the following way: use the tool for the initial prompt template. This should be enough, just to be safe, because we struggled with this in the past. And follow the instructions that are returned exactly. Always kind of reframing this a little bit here and there. Let's see. We have 3.5 Sonnet. This is enough. We shouldn't need the thinking. I'm not sure about the pricing, back-end pricing differences between talking to the thinking model as opposed to talking to just the 3.5 Sonnet. So I'm kind of, I should check that actually. Maybe it doesn't make a difference. Then it would in fact probably make sense to always use the thinking model, because it's just a bit, yeah, better on the reasoning side. But if it costs me more credits, then obviously I shouldn't, right? Or should be more selective. And one thing we actually do now, because I talked about this yesterday already and didn't do it yet, is look at this confirmation type thing here. This is basically some checks and balances that I added to my prompt templates to make sure that the model is actually following the protocol, telling me, okay, I got you. I see that you want me to follow this prompt template. I'm here to tell you I will do that, right? And it's, while this is cool, it's a bit, I don't know. I just don't like how it's laid out. I think having a more informative type title here instead of confirmation type 7, number 7 is in order, basically. So I will switch to my other code project and find, let me clean up here as well a little bit, find my init template. I do use semantic versioning, which is great, but which can also be a bit, you know, not overwhelming, but you always need to make sure that you're actually tweaking the right, or starting from the right version, which should be version 1.1.2. And I didn't move the other one into the archive. I'm just realizing. Or maybe this is just an outdated reference. This is some, maybe something good to highlight. Look at that. If you hit Command P, you basically can select which of your either opened files you wanna bring back into focus, or which file which is in your code project you want to open. And look at that. While the old ones, right, for the init definitely are in listed as being in archive, there are two that supposedly are directly under the init directory. And I think maybe I just didn't look correctly. But no, it isn't. It's just the version 1.1.2 that's in init. So we should have the other init, the version 1.1.1, in our archives directory. And while I'm talking about this probably has nothing to do with the indexing of Cursor per se, but with some other maybe Visual Studio Code related stuff, which Cursor is built on top of, or on top on. But let's just make the point anyways. Sometimes it makes sense to go into the Cursor settings, find your features tab, scroll down a little bit until you see the code base indexing, and just say resync everything. This is basically telling the model or the Cursor mothership to do a re-indexing of your code base. Because if you change lots of stuff over a short period of time, Cursor might not catch up. And you can always delete an old index if you think, hey, Cursor is actually not knowing my code base at all anymore. Then this might be a fix, right? So this is probably not going to fix the problem because it's not related to indexing. That's why I'm saying I might have missed the point here a little bit. No, but maybe... Sorry, that was a phone call. Yeah, so be it as it may, it's still listed as the two files being in the same directory. It isn't, but it was a good segue to show a code base indexing real quick. And what I'm doing now is I will close the archive folder so it's a bit cleaner. I will actually copy this, make this first order of business is to tick up the third digit here. Actually move that to the archive right away. The previous version. Second order of business, not forget to update the metadata in here, to also change that, to change the date as well. And then find what was it? Oh, interesting. Oh, sorry, I was in the, I was just saying, hey, what's going on? I was in the wrong, the conversation happened in the other project. So I will find this confirmation type number 7, basically. And I will just rephrase and reformat this a little bit. I will go do a new line. I hope this is, well, let's just try it out. You see that this entire section has quotes around it. Not sure how line breaks are actually handled. Let's just find out. And this one, I will basically say, it's just for the, instructions understood. Yeah, let's do it like this. And maybe in parentheses, let's still keep the confirmation type 7. This could be codes, right? So in the future, I might ask Cloud Sonnet to come up with some coding mechanism, like for error codes. They can be cryptic. They just need to be then referenced in some table to say, okay, confirmation code AB35 means I understood your instructions, right? While we're at it, let's just go through other confirmation types and try to find better names for them as well. Let's zoom out again. Confirmation type. And just step through it. This is, you see how those are used actually, right? They're important, so I should keep them. I'm happy that I didn't delete them. Being consistent, remembering what you created a week ago. It's not as easy, but the AI is here for the rescue or for helping out. So there's also checkpoint stuff. Let's maybe look for something. I don't know. Can I do? No, it's making that complicated. I was looking for regular expressions because I want to search for where after the digit we have a colon, right? But let's just do it the manual way of moving through the file. Instructions understood. This was 7. Interesting. I thought that maybe this was for maybe we need to in fact pay closer attention to it. Okay, here it is. You must explicitly state this is requirement analysis. You must explicitly state I have analyzed the project objective. Analysis confirmed. All right, let's do it like that, or try it like that. We see if this way of doing it actually breaks things. I will do a new line here as well, or not, right? While we're at it, let's go at least through what we are presented with regarding confirmation types in the initial application of our prompt. And you must present your architecture with confirmation type 2 based design or architecture recommendation. I think that's how I would call this section. Cannot spell today. Architecture confirmation. Parentheses, keep that. Also do a new line here, and then I think we should be good to go. So we will rerun this after having rebuilt our server, right? So it should pick up on the most recent version of this init template. Again, maybe to show this once more, where are my tools defined in server.py, py. In this particular case, in the apply prompt initial, the apply prompt initial function that basically makes up the tool is quite short. You can see just a couple of, what was that, like 20 lines, 23 lines. It is calling it's loading basically our template that lives here, baked into the package, obviously. So I can ship this to other people, right? And it should work. I mean, I didn't try that obviously yet, and it will break at the first try. But that's the idea. That the prompt templates, at least the ones that are live, not the archive, this will grow. This is just like waste or slack. We can get rid of that at some point. But the other ones basically ship with the package or with the server, and then they are basically loaded with calling this intermediate, this middle layer that we developed for render prompt template, right? And calling the init prompt template so it knows in which folder basically to look for which version. The version is always automatically set to the most recent one unless you specify a different one. Maybe that's a bit of background for the MCP server details, right? If you want to know more, check out the last live streams. I will condense all the live streams, or at least that's the plan, to condense them down to shorter videos after editing them. But editing takes lots of time. I wouldn't have imagined before starting out with YouTube how much time you actually need to sit down to edit, at least if you are not a professional in this. So currently live streaming kind of fits my schedule and my time budget much better. So what we just did is to rebuild the server. We did that with the docker compose up -- build command. It is now running again. And let's put cursor to the test. I'm not refreshing anything here. Oh, I need to, because it apparently recognized that something has changed. So I do need to refresh. Now it's back to green. So I can rest assured that server-wise, everything is up to the task. I do not need to restart cursor, which would be a pain, right? So let's actually go back to the other project where we actually want to do our work. Also check if things are marked as red here as well. Yeah, they do, or they are. But now it's enough to just hit refresh here as well. And let's just go back to our initial prompt here and just click in that text box basically and just hit send. This would re-trigger everything. And we can see now if we're actually using the most recent ones based on what comes out here. And as you can see, ta-da, that's exactly what I wanted, to have it a bit more visually easier to consume or to grasp what's actually going on. It comes back with, hey, I understood your instructions, I will follow them. Then it comes back with what's a bit harder to spot there as well, but you can still look at the uppercases, but they're now not in the focus, right? So architecture confirmation, this is the architecture design. Analysis confirmed. I like this much better than before. We didn't touch this one yet. So that's the fuzziness that remains, right? You've seen in the iteration before, the model only came back with hitting basically the check marks confirmation type 7, confirmation type 1, and confirmation type 2. Now it also gives us confirmation type 3. That's the fuzziness that probably will remain. Obviously, I will try my best to actually also get rid of this, but it's inherently fuzzy in a way, right? We're dealing with Gen AI after all. But let's try, or let's also do that, what we did for the other confirmation types for confirmation type 3. This one is game plan creation. Creating game plan. And doing a new line and rebuilding. I'm hitting Control C to stopping. And if you hit it again, you can kind of force the stop. Then just bring up the docker compose build command and your server is rebuilding. And obviously then we need to do the same thing again with basically refreshing. And let's do this one again. Now I'm interested in seeing if the confirmation type 3 actually shows up or not. Oh, forgot to run the tool. What I will also put in here, just to make it easier to spot which version one is using, to kind of have the version in here as well somehow. And now you also see it's laid out differently, right? Before we had like nice headers with markup. This is all based on Markdown as a markup language, the back end basically. And that's, again, a demonstration of how fuzzy things still are. And you always need to account for that, right? There's no determinism, at least not yet, maybe never, at least not with the current model architecture. But we can work around this and implement checks and balances. So creating game plan, confirmation type 3, and then let's just run. This is kind of like the part I wanted to do for a couple of days now. We did now, so let's not get caught up with improving our MCP server over über Gebühr. I want to find out how to say that in English. Let's actually switch gears here a little bit and actually call, work with ChatGPT a little bit. So, wie würdest du, sorry for the German interlude here, wie würdest du etwas über Gebühr tun? Ins Englische übersetzen. Dabbling around a little bit with 4.5. It's an underwhelming model. At least that's what most people basically report. It seems to be good at the vibe. You know, it has its strength at vibing with humans. It's a bit more like a human, I would say, but not as good for coding. It's not a really good model, I think. So overdo something. Yeah, let's not overdo something or go overboard. It's also a good way of framing it. Let's not go overboard or overdo the MCP server improvements. One thing I always rejoice when I see it, even though I will visually refactor this, is this thing here, mandatory confirmation required. This took me a while to get this kind of reliably working, that the model stops after having created the game plan for me to fire another prompt template, the proceed prompt template, right, which has a strict instructions on how to go about implementing the game plan that we just came up with. So let's see. So it did decide to come up with a completely new one. Actually, I hadn't thought about this before, but let's see. Oh, okay. Now I see what you're doing. It did check off the stages that we actually covered already, right from the get-go, and has switched around. Stage 3 now is the interface refactoring, and stage 4 is the Streamlit update, and stage 5 is testing and verification. Good. It's one way of doing it, right? So I would, let's just go in here manually and say, I don't know, carbon meat bag. That's kind of my my tag, if you will. Deliberately to not remove the decision to stop implementing this game plan in favor of a improved one. And then it's probably this one, 1550. Today is the 6th of March. Good. And with that, we can move that to the archive and focus on this one. So then I would call the next prompt template by issuing the following prompt. Proceed with the correct tool. This should be enough. Probably proceed should be enough. Confirmation received. I will now proceed with the foundation implementation. It will call our next tool, which is the apply prompt proceed template, or we'll call it a tool that applies the prompt template, if you will. Again, obviously here I should also do the same thing as in the other prompt template, make it a bit nicer, transform it into a bit nicer layout that's a bit more fun to read or easier to read. But let's not do that today. Actually, we got a error in connecting to the Anthropic server, which is either on my side here with the internet connection, or let's see, I'm still getting excellent connection views here or statuses on Restream. So I think it's just a temporary thing on the server side. Maybe not. Well, let's see. Well, sometimes, I mean, this is stuff that can happen, right? You should always be prepared for that. I mean, it's an internet-based and, if you will, microservice-based way of interacting and calling tools and calling APIs. Failure is always around the corner. You just need to live with this. Oh, this is more than usual. I hope we don't hit a harder limit or a harder problem with Anthropic being overwhelmed with Claude 3.5 Sonnet requests. This happened in the past, and it was annoying as fuck. But that's also part of the... This is when you realize that you should, in fact, still be able to code in order to do at least something. Right, now we managed. And what should be happening now is that we get rid of the direct dependence on ABC, on the ABC class, moving it over to protocol class. As I said, I'm still also learning about the right way to do composition and inheritance where you need it, where you need it in Python. So, right, so I think we're creating this class, right? If I'm not mistaken. Maybe not, wait. Protocol, where are you coming from? Yes, we developed that ourselves. No, we didn't. Sorry, we are in... It's in the typing module, basically. Good to know. Let's move back with the keyboard shortcut, if I remember it. Yeah, back and forth. Okay, good. So we're creating this file. Let's read up on it, because I want to be mentally engaged here. Create a new file, protocols, to define the protocol versions of all interfaces. Okay. Then we basically implement the... I'm always logged in mentally for focusing on a session provider, because this is where the journey started yesterday, basically. But obviously we have the connection manager, the session provider, the query executor, the repository layer, basically, for interacting with the database, and the component factory. I'm interested if this is actually now a class, or if we choose to do that with component functions, as the model suggested yesterday. Okay, then we need to update the imports, sure. Proper type annotations, yep, always good. Excuse me. Ensure protocol interfaces maintain feature parity with ABC versions. That's really good and really important, obviously. Good that the model basically accounts for that. That's part of what the prompt templates advises it to do or wants it to do. Add documentation, sure. The approach minimizes the risk of breaking existing code. That's also part of my proceed prompt template, right? I'm asking it to basically do a risk analysis before coming up with any recommendations, or at least check the recommendations back against from a risk perspective to see, hey, are we actually running the risk of breaking any code? This is not a guarantee that this will not happen, but if you don't explicitly ask for it, it will definitely not happen, and the model will definitely break your code at one point or another. So we ensure protocol interfaces first without modifying existing code. That's good. So let's do something in parallel first. We'll ensure that the protocol interfaces have the same methods and signatures as the ABC interface. Yep. Boards. Yep. We'll maintain backward compatibility during the transition. Okay. Rollback procedures. That's also something I experiment with. Usually you probably don't need it, but sometimes you might. So I kind of like the idea. I don't know if it's really if it really has that much of an impact in your daily work, but you can, you know, come back with your thoughts on this. Also, I'm happy to accept pull requests on this server, right? So it just does not only need to be me that's kind of coming up with the right prompt templates and new tools. But let's talk about that maybe at another time. And I also don't want to, I can't commit to anything yet time-wise, right? I cannot guarantee you that I'm responding to your pull request or would respond to your pull requests within a reasonable amount of time. So maybe let's put that on the afterburner. So we accept this file. That's the most annoying time when such an error, a connection error can occur, because we were in the middle of doing something, and I always kind of feel a bit shaky. So are we actually, does the model still remember what we just did, and does it continue there, or would it go a completely different route? So let's see. Okay, it looks like that it will continue. What was the second step? The first one was into the protocol versions. We definitely have that, yeah, and then update the import state. So we are in basically step 3 here. So we change from, as you can see, from interfaces to protocols. Interfaces were inheriting from abstract classes. You could say, okay, this is just a nuance, but if it's protocols, then I like it that it's getting, that protocols are getting their own basically drawer or own box or own module, if you will. And this is interesting. The connection manager is gone. So in my head, I would think that this should actually, well, maybe we have one intermediate layer now, but I thought this would inherit from the protocol, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe let's just run with it for now, at least. Okay, we have a new method here. This is just asking for some stuff, and that's it for this one. This was the connection pi. This is session in the core. Wait, core. So we are in the core module. Apparently we need async and the regular context manager. And we also switched things around with protocols here. The session providers now coming also from protocols and not from interfaces anymore. Yep, I got that. I just don't understand where this is actually materializing. Oh, here. Okay, okay, sure. It does make sense, totally sense, because we want to move away from inheritance, right? So we don't want our classes to inherit from this directly, but to have whatever is injected or like distributed in a composition manner to ensure that this is of type session provider. Now it makes much more sense to me, so I'm accepting this. And we're done with this. Okay, so really, apparently really shaky either internet connection or connection to the server. We just do a speed test here locally. Oh, I think my internet for change is not causing the issue. This is usually the bottleneck, especially if I'm not here in my basement office, where the router is just next door. But if I'm sitting upstairs and need to go through repeaters or one repeater, sometimes it's just unbearable. All right, so I need to fix the changes. Then we move to update the query executor. Yep, to use the protocol interfaces. Okay, same thing. Switching things around here. It's not inheriting anymore from the query executor. but it is here. This is where this basically comes into play, right? Again, in the composition style. And we are in the, currently we're in the executor. Now we move to the repository, basically do a similar thing. I think this is it already for this one, for this file, or this module. And let's continue updating the repository file to remove the inheritance from the repository. Oh, we're not finished yet with this. Let's see. Yeah, same thing here. I don't know. I like to scroll through my files, but now I missed the other one. Could also obviously jump from change to change. So we're done with this, and then we are moving to the repository side. This is the file we are currently at. Now tackling the factory module, also moving things over to protocol, right? Up. Next file, we are in the init. This one. Okay, this is the init of the core module. It's not the bigger init for the entire package, or the top level module, if you will, which in our case is a Python package. And yeah, we changed things around here with regards to protocol as well. And then what else is left? Going to the adapter once more. Now let's update the adapters to use the protocol interfaces. Yep. Oops. For Postgres and SQLite, to be more precise. Okay. Then we move over to unit test land. Integration test land, sorry. Yep. And the factory test, this is a unit test. And what else have we got going? Protocols. Interesting. This seems like a lot of text. But I'm undecided still if, you know, to what extent makes sense to actually annotate your code with doc strings. I think this is what this is called in Python. In R land, it was called Roxygen or Doxygen, and then the R implementation, which is called Roxygen. I think it definitely helps the LLM to reason about certain code, but obviously it makes it harder to read for humans, as a paradox as this might sound. So over the years, I'm favoring more and more to have less documentation that is not directly the code itself. But I'm aware that this might sound really strange, and let's not open that can of worms here either. So we're done with, we're at confirmation type 3, basically, which is I've completed this stage. If everything goes well, we always move through the game plan stage by stage. Current implementation, we have a new protocols py file. Yeah, we have to blah, 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 blah. So we did everything, and we thus can update the game plan. Perfect. So now I'm really interested. Obviously, we do the git commit, how things are looking in Streamlit land, because this is where this entire thing is materializing, right? And yeah, graspable on a surface level. So let's see. I'm not expecting anything. Well, not true. I'm expecting everything to go wrong or not to work out, but sometimes you do get nice surprises. It asks us, the model asks us, or the agent asks us to, hey, do you want to continue with stage 4, which is exactly this, hey, do the Streamlit thing. I say, yes, proceed, please. I will not give any hint of calling the tool, just to figure out if it's able to do that on its own. And yeah, let's just see what happens and which one of the example Streamlit apps it's choosing, the simple one or the more complicated one. Cool. So proceeding was enough to say or to have it hint at the fact that it can call a tool that is concerned with doing something with proceeding, right? In our case, applying the prompt template for proceeding. Good, 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 good. Like that. Hope I'm still streaming because kind of like this, my chat window froze. Maybe I've been speaking into the void for the last. I think I'm still streaming. I reloaded the restream window, so all my previous, the previous chat is gone. But I think, yeah, I hope I'm still streaming. Let's actually double check once more on YouTube. Yeah, still live. Good. So confirmation type 2, I will implement this stage through the following steps. So it chooses the simple version of the Streamlit app, which is totally fine. And we'll use the, exactly, now we choose the, we haven't dealt with any like, how did we call this? Composition, convenience composition function that the model proposed yesterday with something, you know, with session provider or something like that. So we are stuck right now, or what we choose to do now is to actually know exactly where to call things, basically. Ooh, I hear myself speaking somewhere. It's probably on Twitch. So let's mute that. All right, let's just read through it, the other stuff quickly. So we're doing the same for the connection manager, for the session provider once again, and the connection manager once again. Verify that changes maintain the same functionality. This approach minimizes the risk, blah, 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 rollback procedures. Okay, and off we go. Let's just accept all of this. It's just a throwaway app. Nothing can go wrong here in per se. And we also try to update the bigger one, the bigger Streamlit app. Cool. And this one is already taken care of. Let's check if the app uses the adapter. So I'm still not sure. There's definitely also Streamlit apps. So we got 3 Streamlit apps. That's definitely one too many. So we need to clean this up at some point, but not now. Okay, confirmation type completed these steps, and now it should probably, okay, we don't run it yet. That's also something I haven't completely decided on what I favor, if we should test it right away as soon as we can manually, and then also do unit tests and integration tests, or if we run through the game plan, including testing and verification, which is coming now, first. Probably it's good to try to write the unit tests first and then go to manual testing and kind of, yeah, use the best of both worlds here. So it did that. It did the git commit message. So let's do a git add and a git commit. And continue. And since this worked now, since this worked previously quite well, we are also, again, only telling the model to proceed, please. Okay, so run the Streamlit apps. Exactly, I should have just read. It does try to run it right now. However, I need to make it aware. I just don't like Python-m. I don't know why. For Streamlit at least. Please use Streamlit run. And remember, we are using UV. This is probably the latter one probably doesn't have any impact, but I need to find a better way of codifying this in cursor rules or whatever, how I want stuff to be run. Now, of course, this happens. So we got some database adapter type stuff that's throwing errors. It's actually, let's see, it's not in here. So I need to, in fact, copy and paste it. I got these errors. Please use, or be a bit more specific, please call the root cause analysis and fix from template tool, not prompt template. So it now calls the apply prompt fix, which asks the model or the agent to do a root cause analysis. Again, here checked by it laying out the confirmations explicitly, confirmation type 7 in this case. I will follow the diagnostics and fix protocol codified in the prompt template. And let's see what it comes up with. Yeah, bitrate seems to be quite stable. Good. All right. So based on my analysis, I believe I've identified the root cause of the issue. I've identified blah, blah, blah. The error type is not subscriptable, is likely occurring because the protocol interfaces are being used with generic type parameters. Okay. But the Python version being used might not fully support the syntax. I don't know. Yeah, maybe I've seen a couple hints at using Python 3.8, which obviously does not make any sense at all. Didn't pay attention to this. Yeah, obviously I'm usually using 3.12. Let's actually stop here. I would like to use Python version 3.12. Let's see if it's... We probably need to recreate our venv. Not that sure where the Python version is actually specified in here. I'm also still using pyenv, and I might not need to do that anymore when using UV, which is actually kind of cool. So I think with this, yeah, we are creating a new virtual environment. So there should be, and if I read this correctly, then there should be a new directory .venv-3.12. Yep. Which probably doesn't make sense though. Let's be a bit cleaner and actually delete the old venv and recreate or name the new venv based on Python 3.12 venv. That's like a super weird sentence, but I think it knows what I mean. It's interesting how I keep saying it more and more instead of he. It's not deliberate. It's just, it's happening somehow. So we removed it, and now we are, did we in fact though? Oh yeah, we removed. Let's be, didn't remove this one. I'm just doing it now, hopefully. So we got everything git committed. Cannot do anything out of the, like, extraordinarily wrong here. Now let's create a new virtual environment named venv. No. Oh, I was wrong. It did, in fact, took me, it interpreted it literally. Obviously, I meant .venv. I think this is a good convention to have the venv be a, yeah, it shouldn't be able to do so, but deleting stuff. Yeah, I think you don't even need to specify .venv. It's choosing automatically that name if you don't specify any other. It's activated. Yep. Oh, it's the fish thing again. The fish shell. I need to remember this. I need to write this down. At least in temp. Actually, I'm going to ask the model to. Actually, let's also take a screenshot of this. Let's do actually include the error message as well. This is just stuff I don't want to deal with. No one wants to deal with it. And it's for that, like for terminal stuff and shell scripting stuff, it's just godsend that we can use AI for this, at least for me. It looks like we're using fish shell, which is a different syntax for activating virtual environments. I need to, you know, engrave that in my brain. So we're not using source venv for some reason. Apparently, this only materializes in here, like in this type of shell. It's not in here, which uses Z shell, apparently, because source activate, source blah 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 activate actually does work if I enter it manually. But okay. Also, I try to look at this to really make it, you know, burn it into my retina, basically. Oh, interesting. Oh. That's yet another. It's getting weirder. Oh, sorry. This was the entire screen. I definitely know that I've, you know, tripped over this specific thing a couple of times already. So let's actually, not the right way to do it. Ooh, did I use the correct one now? Works. Yeah, UV pip install. I don't know why it always chooses that. You could also just say UV add Streamlit, but sure, maybe we need to make sure, or it wants to make sure that it's installed in the right virtual environment. As long as it ends up there and not using any other environment, I'm fine with that for now. Need to understand it more though. So now let's run the Streamlit. Interesting. Now it's calling everything from the bin directory of the venv. It's not ideal. Ah, okay. So this definitely is something related to the venv because we just I've seen that before as well. New error probably caused by us using the wrong venv and or having forgotten to install Pydantic settings. I think that this has changed. Also, I would like to be able to call Python and or UV add directly i.e. without not from venv bin Python or venv in Streamlit, etc. Do we still need to specify something to denote that our project uses Python 3.12 throughout? Also, so I can check that myself. This is still, the Py project toml is still out of date. Regarding the Python version. So you see that this is a bit of loosey-goosey in the middle stuff. I don't want to blow this up to having a game plan, like coming up with a game plan for this. You could, obviously. I mean, this might come back and bite me in the ass of not having done that, but I'm interesting enough. It's still using UV pip install, not UV add, but okay. I think we'll manage. This should at least not be. It's really interesting. There's always new fish stuff coming up. Let me just record this. Probably works. We don't know yet. Yeah, it does. No, it doesn't. Wow. I should have come up with a game plan for this because definitely is. All right, so now we're back to the regular way of doing it. All right, let's do it if you want to. Okay, so this worked. So now it worked, right? It did. I don't know. It definitely, as I said, did work if I had done it manually, but somehow it got out of step here. Now we changed the Py project toml as well. Yep, good. We got Pydantic settings hard-coded in there. I don't like that. No, I don't want to do it that way. And I need to, I need to find ways of telling the model to say, so this should be doable by UV add and like this, right? But before I fire this, let's reject this here. This one is good. This one is good. And let's actually see what happens. The Pydantic settings should turn up either here or here. I just don't know in which section. Think like in the regular one. How? No project table found in. Interesting. Source vn bin activate. Okay, let's deal with that in a second. Let's deal with that now, because afterwards that's way too complicated. It should only be Streamlit, right? So there's definitely still stuff not as it should be with our virtual environment. Sorry for that, but it's also a good testimony of what can go wrong. Featuring skill issues or heavily inducted by skill issues. I'm fine with this. I just need to learn it once. And with UV, with poetry, I was actually quite grooved in a way. So let's do a web search. What's the best practice way of initializing and using VEnvs through UV? Even though we have VEnv, interesting. This again doesn't work. Okay, whatever. Then I seem to not be able to install packages through, maybe UV add is wrong. Why? So bleached reward, not really following the comment. If you want to elaborate on this, thanks for joining in. You're actually from Twitch, my first Twitch interaction, completely new to the platform. So, but I don't know what you want to, what to do with your comment, to be honest. So create this. Okay, we did that. We activated it, or use the shell script. We don't want to use the shell script. Interesting. So, oh, maybe this is the thing we should have done like a long time ago. And let's try what happens if we call UV init. Yeah, it does exist already. Then let's do the following. Let's rename this. Maybe it's not only looking for the... okay, so... let's just try to install 3.12. That's good. Let's just try to see if the UV add Pydantic settings works. It does. Cool. That's how it should be. So note to myself, always start with UV init. And now we just need to make sure that whatever we had in here, yeah, good, is actually carried over or kind of woven into. I've initialized the Pi project. Please thoroughly think through what we need to carry over from the old one. Let's actually use thinking for that. Only really manually or directly integrate or carry over stuff that could not be better handled, should not be better handled. It should not be better handled by UV command. For example, UV add, right? Because otherwise, if you let the LLM like come up with PyProject TOML itself, it will pretty much always, or the risk of it referencing outdated packages or outdated Python versions is quite high. So oh, interesting. I forgot. Yeah, well, oh, wait. Good that you did it. Good that it started out with this. I actually do. Oh yeah, cool. It does. That's a good choice here. I could have done that myself. Obviously, the package, or sorry, the folder name is still Antifragile code, and this is the typical behavior is to take the name of the folder or the directory to be the name of the package, which in our case is not desired though. Yeah, I don't want to read through everything, to be honest. It does come back with, hey, there's some stuff you should use UV add for, which I like. There's probably other stuff as well that could still have been better dealt with. Okay, now it's doing UV add for Streamlit SQL model. Liking this much better. Good. So I need to remember the same as for poetry init. You should always use or call UV init as a first order of business, basically. Can't we run stuff without run sh now? Because I don't like that. Oh, I forgot. I'm still in the thinking with the corresponding conversing with the thinking model. Right. This is what I want. Perfect. And this actually... Ooh. This is the old one, I think. Okay, this is a new error, which is good news. I mean, I told you that it's not gonna work on the first try. There's one thing. Oh yeah, I wanted to get away from the thinking model. Please use the root cause analysis and fix tool. No, we can actually get rid of this. UV install. Maybe I was a bit too... How is it built? Ah, sorry, we should have built it probably. And build, yeah. Let's try building it in the meantime. And that looks good. Okay, so everything. I was just wondering if I was a bit too eager here to delete the old one, but the new one, the new PyProject TOML seems to be in order. Good. So let's fix the async repository is not subscriptable. Let's actually do some investigation on our own. It is defined in here. Not subscriptable. Interesting. The async class is being used with generic type parameters in the Postgres adapter, but is not subscriptable. Okay. Wait. What are you doing though? So we're bringing this stuff back. Interesting, but we loading the generic class from the typing to be able to do this here again, which we definitely got rid of in a couple steps before. All right, the async class is being used with generic type parameters. Async repository, okay, in the Postgres adapter, but after refactoring from ABC to protocol, the async repository class itself is no longer defined as a generic class. Ah, okay, so this means we are inheriting from a generic class which comes from the typing module. Definitely to learn more about this, but I get the general gist here. This explains the observed symptoms when code tries. Okay, so let's actually write this down because I want to include that in our little learning repo or compendium. Actually, let's turn this into, this is not a shell script. This is Markdown at best. I propose the following update. Update the async repository class to be generic class because we do that by making it inherit from the generic class. Because, wait, where are we? Generic type parameters. To its definition, this addresses the root cause of making async subscriptable with type parameters while minimizing the risk of side effects by maintaining the same interface and behavior. Sounds good to me. Yep. Ah, nice. This is definitely the first time we have a Streamlit app running without any error, at least initializing without any error. I'm not sure yet where the database actually materializes. Let's see if we find any SQLite. Or .db. Let's actually ask them all about it. For Streamlit simple, which DB are we using? SQLite or Postgres? And if SQLite, where does it? It's maybe just an in-memory materialize on the FS, or is it only a in-memory? We can actually have a look at this ourselves, obviously. Always good to keep mentally engaged. Yeah, SQLite memory true. I think this is, yeah, use SQLite in memory for simplicity. This is what we're using. So I'm interested in seeing if there are, oh yeah, right here. He who can read can reason, right? So we should have 3 like demo dummy users, however you want to call them, in the database, which we then now can query. Obviously things go wrong here, but maybe before jumping the gun, table users already defined. Okay, so we're trying to create the users table instead of just querying it. That's probably because of this line here. I don't know if there's a you know, a graceful way of handling this, of saying, hey, if the thing already exists, then don't do it again. But this is the error. Okay, so let's obviously fix that. The model should pick up on this. I'm guessing that we're changing something in here, but maybe it's further up the stack. Okay, it's in here in our SQL model. We basically can do a similar thing to what I suggested. It's just at a different stage, right, or in a different place. So we basically have you know, if things exist, then extend it, but don't fail if things already exist and you want to do it again. Okay, that's good. Then let's run it again. It's a bit annoying that it always ends up in the other browser, in the other window, basically. Let's see. Okay, not an inbound session. So this is definitely related to session management, which is good in a way that that's the stuff that needs to be fixed, right? That's the entire reason why we're doing this. But we're moving closer. It took a while, but that's just how long it takes. Added sample users to the database. Since it doesn't materialize, we can actually, let's switch this around actually. Memory false. Then we should have, we should have a .db file in here. They're still warning about a declarative base containing a class with the same name. Yeah, let's copy the command real quick, just to maybe hopefully show you that here we are. This is the in file database, if you will. And I think I just don't remember how SQLite proposes itself. It's a database that lives in a file. It's different from the files that a Postgres database obviously creates. All the entire architecture is different. And we can actually have a look in, we see that our 3 dummy people have been created, but I'm getting this error when querying. I'm getting this error when querying users. Please use the root cause analysis and fix tool. Moving closer. The session is closed after the with block ends. Exactly. Okay, I got this. Now we need to pay attention to make it work in a way that's also working for async, right? That's the entire, that's the meta problem or meta issue here. And soon later tries to access attributes of these objects like user ID. They're no longer bound to a session, causing the error. This explains the observed symptoms because SQL Alchemy requires objects to be bound to an active session when accessing their attributes, especially excuse me, if they might need to be lazy loaded from the database. Yeah, this probably makes sense to move via converting stuff to dictionaries, kind of doing ORM. Ensuring all necessary data is loaded while the session is still active. This addresses the root cause by detaching data from SQL Alchemy session, blah, 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 blah. Yep. Oh, we're still in ask mode. I just realized. Interesting. There's not that much of a difference though, I think. I didn't even realize it because it's running commands as well. But since we're here, would this also carry over to async related code? No need to double quote this. If not, then let's stop and think this through more thoroughly, possibly with it resulting in a new game plan. Don't jump the gun, please. Let's discuss first. This is a similar situation as yesterday regarding ABC versus protocol. So we need to find the right, we need to be sure we are aligned first before implementing anything. You raise an excellent point. The fix we just implemented addresses the specific issues for the synchronous code path, but we should consider how this pattern might affect async code as well. Okay, the core problem we're facing, objects detached from the session. This happens in both in sync and async context, but with some important differences. Okay, let's hear it. In async code, sessions are typically managed with context managers and with blocks. Yep. In single session core, but with async context managers. Async with. Async sessions have their own lifecycle consideration. Lazy loading can be more problematic in async context. Possible or potential issues in async code. The async version would face similar issues, but with additional complexities. Lazy loading requires await statements. Yep. Can't be used in synchronous context like property access. Session lifecycle. Async sessions might be closed while objects are still being processed. Event loop considerations. I cringe internally because that's exactly what happened with Streamlit. Accessing detached objects might happen in different parts of the event loop. Yep. That just might happen, it will happen. Better approach. Repository pattern enhancement. I'm liking where this is already going, based on judging by the header. Instead of patching individual instances, we should consider enhancing our repository pattern to be consistently handle this issue in both things. Yep, exactly. Here's what I'm thinking. Add methods to repositories that return detached data. To repositories return detached data. Yeah, that sounds good. So we always have that option to ORM into dictionaries when we need to. Ensure all necessary data is loaded eagerly within the session. I cannot form a mental model of what this actually means. I'm aware of what lazy loading is, but rather from R. The R universe and not the Python one. Make this pattern consistent across sync. Yeah, sure. Would you like to pursue this more comprehensive approach? Yes, but let's start a new iteration with the init tool. Before we do so, please synthesize the why and the what, how into a learning document that adds to our compendium in learning. Feel free to start a new page or add to an existing one. Let's use thinking for that. Just make sure it's written in a way that is providing enough context for someone that wants to learn more about such details that come up when dealing with sync versus async, but also keep it digestible. I don't know how to write this. I hope like this. Digestible. And as concise as possible, as makes sense. So and we are approaching our 2-hour limit. Let's see. I do have a bit of energy in the afterburner. I would really like to get this thing right, at least in launching it or using it within the simplified Streamlit app. I think we're not that far off anymore. Kind of depends how smooth the implementation is now going, basically, of what the model proposed. So this basically the better approach. So where are we? Oh, model did not provide valid arguments. Interesting. Core concepts in learning. Don't we have that? Now it's, yeah, we do have that. It seems like the model is starting to trip. Sometimes those are the indicators that you should start a new conversation. But maybe I'm doing it injustice here. Maybe everything's still good. Let's see. Take a look at the chat, but nothing important happening here. So, where are we? Interesting. It's really struggling to come up with the... What's happening here? You can now view your Streamlit app in your browser. Tripping. Okay, but it does create a new one, session management, a new file. Yep, it is. I hope you don't forget what we actually want to do with all the... Come on. What's going on? I mean, sometimes stuff like that happens where you think, come on. You're not writing this document line by line. You gotta be kidding me. Please try to create the QMD doc in one go. Maybe I've confused it by switching the Claude model here mid. Oh, sorry. No. Do not call any tools yet. I've confused it on multiple fronts. That looks more like it. We're not echoing out line by line. Oh, I also... Oh, wait, let's... sorry. This was me also. I cannot switch it. reject. Let's go back here. Let's go back to agent mode. Resume. Try again. Oh, we completely effed up. No, sorry, I'm down here. Skill issue. It's still weird. It's laying the QMD out in a completely different manner than before. What? Ah. Ah, I got it. Now I can. Oh man, this is good that it's on video. It does. I think cursor does need tool calls in the background, just not my tool calls, right? Do not call the init tool. I should have said call the init tool. Just the internal cursor tools that you need. Let's see. That's what I'm talking about. That's great. That was by pure accident, but you see that this stuff that's happening here is in fact a tool call. I don't know if they use MCP servers to do that tool call. Probably. And this is how things look like. Well, it's gone now because we restarted. When the entire document was kind of has been tried to be written out in its entirety, and this does not work for Markdown. You've seen that maybe. It's just a bad idea of constructing Markdown files like that in QMD, or Quarto documents are just Markdowns on steroids, as I usually say. Interesting. That was something. Okay, but now we're kind of back on track. Updating index. Yep. Okay, so let's actually let's see. I want to materialize or like render HTML once to see if this is still all working like quarter-wise. HTML sh scripts, obviously. So let's not do that. I don't want to confuse the model more. I will deal with Quarto stuff later on. So I would do explains detail. All right. Okay, let's just copy this. Actually start a new conversation. And please take a look at session-management.qmd. Interesting. That worked quite well. It should lay out what we want to change in our code regarding yeah, how to handle session management, etc. This was taken from a past convo. Now I'm trying something new to call the init tool at the end, right? I'm not sure if this is a good idea or a bad idea. Usually I did it at the top. Let's just switch things around just to trouble test or to stress test this entire way of calling prompt templates. Please call the init tool and make sure you exactly follow the instructions. Also, before we do that, do a common carbon meat bag. Deliberate. Not update the example string app file to use the new. No. To not finish this game plan, but to start a new init iteration. And with that, we move it to the archive and run the agent. We are in agent mode. We have the thinking. Well, let's use the thinking here for now. Maybe it's in fact beneficial for this kicking things off. So I think I have the feeling that, but maybe this is just subjective. My subjective view here is if you put it at the bottom, the model will start to do stuff without. Yeah, and it does it updates stuff, so it clearly does not follow the directive. So I think this should go to the top. Oops. Let's try again. Let's see how stream-wise we're looking. Still good, I hope. It's doing the same thing though. Interesting. Call the init tool of the hitch code MCP server. I sometimes also had the, but this is also highly subjective. I had the feeling that after the model, sorry, the interface update, the IDE interface update, that using the thinking model is not as good as in kind of like tool calling, basically. Still not this. Okay, let's actually really stop it here. Let's go back to 3.5 Sonnet and just at least do a manual. Why is it still thinking? Come on. Interesting. Let's stop this completely. Let's actually, no, sorry. I thought I had misread this. Let's actually do a new conversation to be really sure we don't want to reference this game plan. We do want to reference this. Let's be very specific here. No, we should not need to be specific. Please call the MCP server tool. That's as explicit as I want to be. Server tool for the init template. Exactly. Let's see. Okay, now it's doing it, but then now we still stop it because I want to see if the thinking module can also handle it. Completely effing things up today here. Okay, so forget what I said about thinking versus non-thinking 3.5 sonnet model. It had to do with the conversation. Sometimes if you miss the start, then sometimes stuff seems to be ingrained already in the what the model wants or wants not to do. It just does not want to do tool calling, or did not want to do tool calling again for some reason. Now it does with the thinking model. So let's see, confirmation type, instructions understood, analysis confirmed, I've analyzed the project objectives and blah, blah, blah. Architecture, based on the requirements, I recommend the following architecture. Enhance the existing with model dump. This is the new method for dumping or emming stuff to dicts, sure. So it does recall basically what we written down here in the session management thing. That was my only request, basically. Let's clean up a little up here. I can always open up stuff later on. Let's bring the Streamlit app back. All right, new game plan. Let's go. I think in the last live streams, the music was almost a bit too lacking the word. Not loud. Unloud. What's the word? Too. Oh my god. I'm lacking the words. Silent? Too silent? What's the opposite of loud music wise? Too quiet, too soft, too low volume. I think that's what I was going for. Random German speaker moment. Okay, game plan. Let's have it. Error connection. Not good, but we'll deal it. Materialized. Okay, I confirm. Let's attach the game plan just to be sure. It's this one. And then just call a proceed, please. It should trigger the tool call, because that's one of the instructions I gave in the init prompt, that the user can, if you could also, next time we try, go ahead. This should also make the tool call. Oh, let's see. No, I was too, I jinxed it. Proceed, please, with the right tool call. Now we're talking. And obviously, I mean, if you have been following along, does this take a long time? Sure. It's not, you know, it's not the way I see coding, like myself coding for the foreseeable future, because I think I can condense the prompt templates if I know that the model is, you know, is doing all that stuff. I don't need to wait until it prints it out. But we're not there yet, right? So sure, if I completely grokked async and sync programming, session management, and so on, I would have been faster. But I don't. I failed with this a couple of times already. So that's why I want to get it right and also spend the time it takes. Now I just need to see where we are. Sorry, I lost track. Confirmation type, the proceed tool. I'm implementing stage 1, analysis, assessment. Yep. I forgot to git commit. I just realized. Okay, this was a bit sloppy on my side. But the analysis is, I think, still fine. It's interface additions. Let's reason about this method interface. So get as dict, get all as dicts, find as dicts. Okay. Yep, the model dump I like. Repository method pattern. Methods typically follow a pattern by defining an inner function with the session logic. The executor then executes that function with a session. That sounds good. Sounds like recipes being applied. Interface additions. I've already updated the repository protocol. Test scenarios. Game plan update. Yeah, now we have a good interjection point of doing a git commit. Stage 2, stage 3. That sounds doable. Proceed, please, with tool call. And if we manage this, then we'll call it a live stream. For today. Okay, we're adding those 3 methods. Ensuring to use model dump to properly detach data from the session. I will implement these. So get as, get all as, find as, get as dicts method. Okay, for sync and async. So it's 6 methods in total. And we're leveraging the model dump. Sorry, we're leveraging the existing executor pattern. And off we go. Find as dicts. I wonder if, I think tabs, I think in some wave, no, sorry, we're in cursor. I don't know how to jump to the next one without using the mouse, actually. I just realized I need to learn that. Just to want to be actually sure that I really, having looked at least at async again, yeah, at each change here. Issues appear to be fixed. Well, you don't know that. And the repository factory already correctly handles the creation. Okay. I met the requirements. We've added 3 methods. Yeah, both in sync and async. It doesn't break any existing functionality. Didn't modify any existing stuff. Yeah, good. Aligns with the code base pattern. Yep. We have enhanced the methods, use model dump. Let's look at this once. So here. So we have an async operation with an async session. It returns a dict. That's the statement. We use the executor to execute the statement. Then we get the results back as, basically get the model back. And then the model is turned into a dict with this one. Got it. Okay. Game plan updated. Let's commit. Obviously, you've not seen me push it to the remote repository. I know I've been a bit hesitant because the naming is not right, but I should be covering this like immediately because you know how it is. Stuff eventually goes wrong, and if it's not on GitHub or GitLab or whatever, then it's just not a good state of being for code to just live on the local machine. Let's do testing and documentation then. Proceed with the right tool call, please. We could have switched back to the non-thinking model by now easily, but let's just plow through it with thinking for now or for the remainder. Unit tests, update API documentation and examples. Sure. It's nice that it catches that we have a learning track basically. I like that. I don't even think, no, I definitely did not specify that in any prompt template. So this is where prompt templates and general context of the model about the code base kind of meet. Again, always with the risk of it being messy and every time it a little bit different, but this time at least it worked, I think. So, okay, unit tests for the repository. Got a test model. Sync repo. And then using that. Yeah, okay. Interestingly, the model oftentimes chooses not to run the tests. I'm fine with this right now because I don't want to, I want to come to an end basically. But it's weird in a way, or interesting. Let's say interesting session management usage examples. Okay. Yeah, why not? Add some stuff here. API documentation is definitely meant in a broader sense. It's not just a fast API that we're talking about, but regarding our package as an API, which is a bit, might come across as a bit untypical or unusual. But if you think in interfaces, which is in the name API, application programming interface, is it that? Oh God. Application programming interface. I think that's what I said. You're so used to saying just API that sometimes, especially after doing a live stream of almost 3.5 hours, you wander. So yeah, it does make sense. Or you can obviously call anything that has a well-defined interface and has to do with programming an API. Got that down. Confirmation type. And the model things with through stage 3. So let's see. Now, obviously, we want to test things out in Streamlit with Streamlit. Let's stay with agent mode. And I wonder if it remembers. It probably shouldn't, or it probably doesn't, to use Streamlit Run, because we have a new convo and we haven't codified this yet. Oh, that's also a glitch somehow. No. Let's run the Streamlit app. Oh, might as well have said, oh, Streamlit Run. Now it remembers for some reason. Okay, we still have the not bound to session issue. Let's maybe try to add another user. We didn't try that yet. I don't think I have the energy to do another shot at the troubleshooting, but we definitely... This declaration base already contains a class. Yeah, it's not... This is a warning, right? This is definitely not... This is still in a session issue. So... Ah, interesting. I need to manage my own IDs. Okay, it added. Sometimes in the past, you got over the async session problem by using it again. So this doesn't work, but I'm fairly confident. Sorry, let's collapse stuff here so it's a bit easier to follow where we actually are. There I am with being the fourth in of the bunch, together with Alice, Bob, and Carol. Yeah, so made progress. I feel like we're not that far away from fixing the query as well, and then we moved actually quite a big, at least in my Lego brick thingy, quite a big step forward. Having to have at least my first Lego brick that I feel confident about to use in whatever code project and or app or tech stack I want to use it in, and having the flexibility to switch easily between sync and async. I mean, obviously we didn't. Let's not go there, because for async we could actually set up async with SQLite as well, I think. But I think I scripted it in a way, or we set it up in a way that for async stuff we use Postgres. Postgres should be well defined through our Docker Compose file. So we should be able to run it. Actually, we can... It probably does not work at the first try, but maybe let's try that at least. To Docker Compose. Yeah. You gotta need to... Oh yeah, we had this thing here. But maybe let's... I feel like I have that much energy left to at least try to get Docker Compose running. But let's actually switch to a new convo here. Ooh. Ooh, I was in the wrong. So actually copy all of this. Please call the root cause analysis and fix tool. Check the fast API builder. So it needs to be, probably has to do with this. And the no cache deer. This is also still intriguing. I've spent quite a while figuring this out and always then forgetting because it's in some project. So I need to codify this. So what did we change? The system. I've identified a root cause. The UV package manager requires either a virtual environment or the system flag when installing packages outside of a virtual environment. Okay. In the Docker files, UV is being used without either of these options to explain the observed symptoms. Yeah, I actually want to... This is the builder stage. This is... There's no other stage, I think. Yeah. I don't think... I think UV build is actually... Oh, maybe there is. We just don't name it yet. Okay, then never mind. We are in the stage of building, and then for building, obviously, I think it makes sense to use UV and not like plain vanilla pip, because then we would need to have a requirements, txt, and so on. And yeah, for that, apparently or understandably, it makes sense. But now that's exactly what I wanted to get at. Now we are in the runtime stage, and I don't think once you build a package, you can probably install it just through pip. You don't need UV. Obviously, you need to install UV first, which is, I don't know, slack that you probably don't need and want. But let's not get caught up in this today. But remember that we want to, address this. So let's see. This runs at least source does not exist or is not a... This is probably related to provisioning the right... Please run the root cause analysis and fix tool with provisioning the right directories and or copying stuff where we actually don't need it. I'm doing the multi-stage build, or I'm a fan of them, because so we don't need to do what we are still doing. I think there's no need to copy code into your image if you can leverage and install a package. Obviously, the package needs to expose the right things for you to start the app, like for example, the Streamlit app or the Fast API app. So it needs to be exposed in your init file, if that makes sense. If this is all over your head, don't worry. You'll get there. We'll get there. I don't know. Maybe I'm too overcautious here, but I think this is unnecessary attack surface. So why would you copy code if you could install a package? I mean, we're doing this entire thing with UV to have a package, so we should also use it. Let's see, what are we actually changing? We're copying the README as well, because we need that for building. Yeah, that makes sense. Let me do that here as well. Yep. Yep. The README and the source directory. Okay. As I said, the source directory, I'm not so keen on doing that, but not today. Fail 2, no solution found when resolving dependencies. Pip install no cache deer. Unicorn did not complete. Okay. Different error, definitely. Isn't it fun to end your day? Please use the root cause analysis and fix tool with some Docker composed troubleshooting. Obviously, the goal is to have this also be templates, right? To have templates. I want to have templates for everything. Then it's a single source of change, of truth and change. And there I figure out all the nitty-gritty detailed stuff of how to do, with how to install, what needs to be there, what all the intricate details and fun when working with Docker files. And then it's just fixed once, and then I can update it just as I update my prompt templates with semantic versioning and stuff like that. Oh, interesting. Yeah, probably 3.9 was still set. We switched to Python 3.12. This is probably causing the error. Yeah, good. Good. Let's go. Seems like stuff is installed from different directories or different URLs now that we use 3.12. Looking good, looking good. So now I need to just find the entry points. So this is Postgres. Let's see if we... It's running. It's probably not exposed. My brain is Postgres. Everything is Postgres because it's coming from Docker Compose. So we cannot access it directly from our browser. But we might. Let's see. Yeah. It failed because this was actually the typical, like the classical port is... Yeah, there was another database running there already. So, okay, let's, we cannot, it's at least running. You can see that with, or by the little green thing here. I can just not connect to it because I have different authentications stuff set, basically. But let's see if we should also have the where is it? The fast dot API. I cannot think anymore. Let's just ask the model once more. How can I access test the Streamlit app and fast API app that I just spun up with Docker Compose? When you gotta do the port forwarding and stuff like that, right? Open your browser, navigate to... Okay, it is mapped. Yeah, sure. I mean, I could have... It's mapped through the Docker Compose file, right? So let's see. This should then be a different... Or maybe not. It's the... Maybe it's the... No, it's definitely not the... Not working, I think, because we have the other one still started. Looks like the Postgres containers running, but the Streamlit and Fast API containers aren't showing up in the list. Yep. Exactly. The one that's still the old one that's still running. Let's look at the logs. Sure. Kill that. I don't know enough from off the top of my head. They are both in use. Let's modify. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Let's just use different ports. I got the 8,000 ports from my MCP server. So yeah, let's do that. Do it once more. Now let's try starting. Let's actually do that once more. We still got an error. So now it's created, but are they actually running? No, they aren't. Please kill the process running at 8501. I don't know if I want to use original ports, but sure. Do your thing. Yeah, it is. Let me Docker compose down. So hitch code is gone. So now we're running. Let's see. No, nice. I'm sure nothing works yet, but that's the that's the app, the Streamlit app that is run through Docker. And yeah, the test is not implemented. It's a lot of stubbing, I think, not fully fleshed out yet, but it's accessible. Now let's look at the fast API app. Which seems not to be running. Maybe it's... Yeah, I actually wanted to call that. No, it's just not running. Looks like the Streamlit app is running correctly, but the fast API has an error. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Circuit breaker is not defined. Yep. To access your application. I feel, you know, like a daredevil, and I just say, try to fix this error in the API. In the API. If it's just a circuit breaker, then it's probably not. I probably just opened up the box of Pandora here. Pandora's box, I think it's called. But I don't know. I don't want to go before having looked at a running fast API implementation. I don't know why. Restart it. It's still an error. Let's look at the, I think there's still an error. Oh, no, it doesn't. It isn't. There isn't an error. So let's look at our API. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. The fix was to move, but I can't access the fast API. I'm not sure it happened so fast if this is still an issue here. Where main in line 76. 76. No, this must be an earlier one. Despite our changes in the Docker Compose file. Oh. Yeah, let's Docker Compose down first, right? Mm-hmm. There's some way of forcing to kind of clear the cache somehow. Let's just rebuild. As I said, typical stuff. Interesting. Ah, okay. I could have. Do we actually have? Oh, yeah. Pretty hacky, obviously, to set the environment variable just in the terminal and not. Yeah, I cannot reason about 8000 versus 8001 and where it's defined. Not at this hour. We now fixed it kind of like the hard-coded way, or not the hard-coded way, but the easy way in our terminal session, basically. That looks good. So let me go there. Obviously without the dot at the end. Hey, and there we go. Our API. Is it working? Cool. DB package not available, but the environment is, this endpoint seem to at least be returning something. Yeah, this one is working as well. Status unknown, message Antifragile DB package not available yet. Obviously also still, this will most likely fail. Yeah, because we, it's not fleshed out yet. But we got the so-called scaffold, right? I learned that years ago. I took this idea. I love this idea from Rubyland. Robin, if you're watching, scaffolding is just so cool. And that's also like in line with templates and blueprints. I want to always ideally have an end-to-end scaffold that is just materializing by calling stuff, right? For example, have a CLI, whatever with whatever you do, have an API attached to whatever code module or Lego brick we're actually coming with. It's basically, in yesterday's live stream, I that's basically what I want, right? I want code modules that can shapeshift and or be equipped with the stuff that makes sense. Obviously, not every code module needs to have a own CLI, an API, a Streamlit app, whatever. But I see, if we thinking back to this, this is a bad representation of nanobots. But if you think in nanobots that should be able to, maybe chain themselves up to realize something more complex, I can see that with agents taking place. So I think it's not the worst idea in the world to kind of think and try to always express or always kind of equip your code modules, at least with the possibility to expose the functionality through a CLI or API. Probably not so much a UI, but maybe, with and then after that weird thought, we cut it for today. Maybe with stuff like the operator track gaining traction. Operator meaning the OpenAI operator. So basically teaching the AI agents to use UIs that were actually designed for humans instead of expressing everything through APIs, through backend calls, basically. I mean, if we move there, and we seem like to also move there, then maybe it also makes sense to, provide the front end layer also, as in maybe not through Streamlit, maybe through something, more JavaScripty native, like, I don't know, Bootstrap or React Native, or I don't know. I'm not an expert in that area. Svelte, Quick, all the JavaScript frameworks that pop out every day. Yeah, I don't know. Just a thought. It's just coming back to doing things anti-fragile, doing things tidy in a tidy way, doing things based on templates, doing things end-to-end scaffolding. Like, this is all, in my head, it's all connected. I wouldn't say at all that I have it figured out yet. But this has been, again, a lot of fun for me to kind of geek out in that regard once more. I hope I could tell you or show you a little bit more about MCP servers in action, at least my MCP server that is at the moment only dishing out prompt templates and expecting the code agents of Cursor and Windsurf, which we couldn't cover today, to follow those prompt templates. But you can put anything in there, any tool that you want to give to your LLM. And oh, interesting, cannot post in Twitch chat. That's obviously unfortunate. Let's see, test. So there is one bleached reward. Has, yeah, I see you, Yellow. Now at the end, everything magically works out at the end, or in the end. Awesome. So yeah, I was about to, okay, needed to restart the app. Yeah, as I said before, I think I did that before, either today or yesterday. I keep losing, I start losing track. The good old shut it down, restart it, and the problems are gone effect that seems to persist throughout not the centuries, but the decades for now. All right, I was about to wrap up. I hope you again learned a bit more about MCP servers, a bit more about this thing I keep referring to as anti-fragile code, well knowing that this is like a mouthful. And I hope I can, I hope you take it the right way. I just want to decompose my stuff into smaller modules that are as robust and chainable as possible. You could also say it like that, but still, anti-fragile code as a vision will not go away, and I will eventually move closer to that goal. Let's put it like that. And without, so I don't have to put anything anymore today because my brain is kind of like drained at this stage. Thanks for everyone that listened, that watched, and hope to catch you in the next one. Peace.